Welcome back to the channel. We're back with our commander deck profile from the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. We have the Ancient one. I know this commander was requested down there in the comment section, so if anyone else has another commander they want covered, leave it down there in the comment section, and we'll do our best to cover that there shortly. But for 2 mana, you get an 8/8 that can't attack or block unless you have 8 or more permanents in your graveyard. But for 4 mana, you can draw a card, discard a card, and when you discard a card this way, target player mills cards equal to its mana value. So we have some big creatures and big mana value spells in this deck in order to make sure we get 8 cards in our deck as quickly as possible with that ability. Other ways to mill ourselves and mill our opponents while we're at it in order to make sure that we could get to that 8 cards in order to start swinging in with the Ancient one, or, potentially mill out our opponent while we're at it. But that's a general overview of the deck. Let's get into it card by card. As we do with most decks, we're starting with Arcane Signet for some mana, Dimir Signet for some mana, Felwar Summit for some mana. Lightning Grease. This way we could attack with the Ancient one the turn he comes down. We don't often have times where we could, have 1 mana spell that says mill everyone for all their cards in their deck. So you can have 8 cards in their graveyard. But still, when we do cast him a later turn, we do have these here and ready for him. Mesmeric Orb in order to make sure we can mill ourselves a little bit in order to get some additional cards into our graveyard. Mind Stone for some additional mana. Mind Crank, whenever an opponent loses life, that player mills that many cards, potentially allowing us to mill our opponents for just a little bit more. Soul Ring for some mana, Swiftfoot Boots. Once again, we want it to make sure that the Ancient one can attack the turn he comes down. So let's give him that haste. Talisman of Dominance for some mana. Cauldron of Eternity for 12 mana. We can potentially put 12 cards into our graveyard with the Ancient One's ability. Plus, cost 2 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard, which will be quite a bit. Whenever a creature control dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. And you pay 2 mana, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Only activate it anytime you activate a sorcery. But still some good recursion there for you. Water Crystal. If an opponent would mill 1 or more cards, they mill that many, plus 4 instead. And then each opponent mills cards equal to the number of cards in your hand if you have 6 mana to spend, which could be quite a bit, allowing us to mill out our opponents just a little bit faster. Wayfarer's Bauble for some additional lands onto the battlefield. Consuming Aberration, power and toughness equal to the number of cards in your opponent's graveyards. With how much we're milling them, that's going to be quite a bit. Doesn't have trample, so it could still be blocked by a 1/1. And whenever you cast a spell, each opponent reveals cards to the top of their library until they reveal a land card. Put the cards into the graveyard, including the lands. They don't get to add the land to their hand. So that person who's looking for a land, that was next on their top of their deck, and now it's not. Deranged Assistant, mill a card, add some mana. We like to mill, we like some mana. Both are good for us there. Fleet Swallower for 7 mana, 6/6. Attacks target player puts half of their library rounded up into their graveyard. That could be us if we need 8 cards in our graveyard. Could be our opponents if we want to deck them out. Laboratory Maniac. If you draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead, allowing us to, have some benefits of milling ourselves out. Likeness Looter becomes a copy of a creature card in your graveyard for X, where X is the spell's mana value. Also allows you to draw and discard, allowing you to get some cards into your graveyard a little bit easier. Milliken, a mill a card, allowing you to get some cards in your graveyard, along with getting you some additional mana while you're at it. Ruin Crib, enters about whenever landfall, enters the battlefield under your control. Each opponent mills 3 cards. If you have Water Crystal, they mill 7. It's almost a tenth of their deck in the graveyard with 1 land. Sepulchral Primordial for 7 mana. You get a 5/4 that Intimidate, can't be blocked except by artifact creatures or creatures that share a color with it. Enters the battlefield. For each opponent, you may put up to 1 creature card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under our control. Can't swing with them this turn, but still some good recursion there for us. Shadow of Mortality, allowing us to mill for 15 with the Ancient One's ability. If your life total is less than your starting life total, spell costs X less to cast where X is different. Essentially being a 2 mana 7/7 if we're at a late enough point in the game. Sheoldred, the Whispering One, allowing us to recur some of our best creatures out of our graveyard that we've milled out inevitably. Soul of the Lost, and also just a good 7/7 that we could mill ourselves for 7, allowing us to make Ancient One into a creature. Soul of the Lost, discard a card, sacrifice a permanent, and then Soul of the Lost powers equal to the number of permanent cards in your graveyard, and toughness is that +1. That could be quite a bit of cards in our graveyard, so may as well benefit off as much as possible. Summon Bahamut, potentially mill yourself for 9, or mill someone else for 9. Destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent, draw 2 cards, or deal damage equal to the mana value of other permanents, which with how much we're recurring some big mana value spells, that could be quite a bit, because if we have that plus Cauldron of Eternity plus Shadow of Mortality, that is 14 plus 12, that's 26 damage to each opponent if we get to the third stage at that point. So it doesn't care about what it's reduced by. Sir Conrad the Grim, this way allowing us to mill some additional cards, but also this way when we mill our creature cards, we're dealing damage to our opponents, or when we have them mill their creature cards, we're dealing damage to our opponents. Teresian Mindbreaker attacks, defending player mills half their library rounded up. Another really good card, making our opponent mill plenty of their library. Or, maybe you have control of it to your opponent somehow and make them mill you. Mind Skinner, not a good way to mill our opponents. Why deal 8 damage to our opponent when we can mill them for 8 cards instead? The Wonder, in order to give our creatures flying, since we have quite a few abilities to mill or discard that. Enchantments, we have Animate Dead, in order to animate one of our creatures in the graveyard, in order to have it come back right to the battlefield. Frightening Sanity, at the beginning of each upkeep, enchant player mills X cards, where X is the number of cards put into their graveyard from anywhere this turn. Potentially if you mill them for half their deck, they have to mill the other half of their deck. Psychic Corrosion, whenever you draw a card, each opponent puts the top 2 cards of the library into the graveyard, milling our opponents for 2 at the start of every turn. Super helpful there. Rules of Undeath, well, wait, is it each opponent? Each opponent or each player? Yep, each opponent. Ripples of Undeath, allowing us to mill some cards, allowing us to get to that 8 even faster for our commander. And also, getting some good cards out of our deck. Trading Grounds, in order to make it so we could cast its ability for 2, rather than having to spend 4 mana for that ability. Let's go ahead and scroll on over to the second half of the deck. For our instance, we have some quite a bit of protection here for our commander, with an offer you can't refuse for counterspell, another chance to mill some cards, and a little bit of recursion for the cards we want back in our hand. Arcane Denial and counterspell for some counterspells. Dark Ritual for some additional mana. Dig Through Time, we're going to have plenty of cards to delve through in our graveyard. So look at top 7, 2 into your hand, rest on the bottom. May as well get our 2 best cards out of our top 7. Why not? Drown in the Lock, counter target spell with mana value less than or equal to the number of cards in its controller's graveyard. With how much we're milling our opponent, that'll probably be the case. Even oftentimes it's just if they have 2 cards in their graveyard, we counter a lot of their stuff. Destroy target creature with mana value less than or equal to the number of cards in its controller's graveyard. It's good source removal for us. Entomb, in order to put something into our graveyard that we want to reanimate at a certain point. Fact or Fiction, allowing us some additional cards into our graveyard, but also some additional cards off the top of our deck. Frantic Search, additional cards into the graveyard, additional mana for us. Negate for counterspell, and Overwhelming Remorse for some removal for 1 mana, essentially. Breach the Multiverse, super fun card here. Been running this in a few decks recently. Everyone mills 10, helping us mill our opponents even faster. Also getting us to that 8 for the Ancient One's ability, allowing us to get that onto the creature from everyone's deck into the battlefield, essentially. Cruel Somnophage, everyone mills 4. We like to see it. And then Power and Toughness equal to the number of creature cards in all graveyards, not just your own. This way you can then swing in for 40 damage, and your opponent just blocks it with a 1/1. Dread Return, in order to return creature card from our graveyard, in order to recur our best thing out of our graveyard. Extract from Darkness, each player mills 2 cards, then put a creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under our control. It's 5 mana recursion. It's not the best, but still pretty good for us. Feed the Swarm for some removal, Fracture Sanity. We may as well pay 2 mana to have everyone mill 4 cards, or 3 mana to have everyone mill 14. Both are good in our abilities for what we want to do. Jador, Aristocratic Capital. We're going to have target player mill half their library, allowing us to get to that mill them out even faster. Living Death, each player exiles all cards from their graveyard, sacrifices all creatures they control, put all cards exiled this way onto the battlefield, allowing us to get everything we want out of our graveyard back to the battlefield, and, board wiping our opponents while we're at it. Maddening Cacophony for 6 mana. Each opponent mills 8 cards, and then since we kicked it, everyone mills half their library. It's going to be quite a bit of cards for our opponent to mill. Midgar, City of Mako, the sacrifice creature, draw 2, lose 2 life. Pretty good ability for us there. Reanimate, in order to reanimate the best card that anyone's milled, or Rise of the Dark Realm, so reanimate everything that everyone's milled. Shish together. Um, Instead, return target card from your graveyard to play for only 2 mana. We like to see it because we're going to have at least that threshold in our graveyard. Terror Tide, all creatures control get -X/-X, where X is the number of permanent cards in our graveyard. It's a board wipe. Victimize, let's get a little bit more recursion there. Whale of the Forgotten, a little bit more mill power there. Look at top 3 cards of the library. 1 to your hand, rest into your graveyard. Bouncing some stuff, and target opponent discards a card. And Windfall, make our opponents draw the last card that they need out of their deck. And then some more after that, where they will deck themselves out. But that's the general overview. That's the card by card of the deck. If you like the deck, make sure you leave it down there in the comment section letting us know and liking the video. If you have another commander you want to see covered, let us know in the comment section as well. But overall, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Thanks for watching.